At the time of recording, we're rapidly approaching the end of 2024. We've recently seen the Unreal Engine 5 not a tech demo, and there's not even a hint of a new Halo game anytime soon. This means that Halo Infinite represents all the new Halo content that we've received in the last 5 years, if not 10. So, considering the lengthy amount of time this covers, you might have expected Infinite's Vehicle Sandbox additions to have been big, striking, major new vehicles to keep the player base going. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the M-15 Razorback. So, to honour the only new vehicle in Halo for nearly 10 years, I've made a USS MOC of the Razorback, and in this video I'm going to cover the in-game vehicle, the build, its features, and how it compares to its mega set. So, let's get into it. So, what is there to say about the Razorback? It's sold as if it's an up-armoured Warthog, which has a cool premise. The Warthog has long been known as a glorified space pickup without doors, so a relatively armoured and protected way to transport the UNSC's troops makes a lot of sense, right? But that solution isn't really what 343 gave us. They gave us an admittedly somewhat cool looking but inherently dumb and nonsensical vehicle. The front has been clearly beefed up and armoured, and this is reflected in game with more hits to kill. But that does nothing for the troops that might be riding in this vehicle. The back is completely bare, devoid of any form of protection at all, making this vehicle into a glorified troop hog. In fact, I would argue that this is even worse than a troop hog. The troop hog at least has these thick guardrails that might add some protection. The Razorback? Nothing. As a troop carrier, the Razorback must at least have some appropriate seating, right? Nope. Do you know what does have seating? The troop carrier hog that featured in-game 13 years prior. So, I'll say it again, the Razorback is a cool looking vehicle, but it appears to be completely unsuited for the task designated for it in Infinite. I think that it would do much better to simply be a sturdier, more robust upgrade to the Warthog, with it having a turret affixed to it, maybe heavier weaponry, rather than just becoming a glorified troop hog. And it's because of this that honestly, this is all I have to say for this vehicle, which is a shame. Bungie could design a new vehicle for a single mission, the Spade, and yet, under recently deceased 343, this is all we could get in nearly 10 years. What a waste. So suffice to say, it isn't the MOC that I've exactly had the most enthusiasm for. But enough about 343, let's get into the MOC. As is to be expected from this vehicle, it features Mega's brilliant active suspension. I've also managed to incorporate the rear rack that's used in-game. Finally, like all my other Warthogs, this MOC includes a liftable steering column to help fit your figure into the driver's seat. As far as figures go, this vehicle can fit a driver, passenger riding shotgun, and as many figures as you can ram into the rear, as who cares about comfort, safety, or protection in 2560 anyways? When it comes to the building details, those who have seen my M-12B Warthog MOC might find this to look a little familiar. And you would be right. If you have a look at the in-game model, the Razorback appears to have an almost identical construction to the M-12B. The main changes are really a beefed up front, a rack placed at the rear, the turret switched out for a bar, and finally, it's painted grey. And that's pretty much it. To be completely honest, this is half the reason I even decided to make one. Sure, the vehicle looks cool, but it never really felt like it added any meaningful ability to the game, so I'm pretty ambivalent to it as a part of the vehicle sandbox. Thankfully though, because it already shares such close DNA to the M-12B Warthog, the development time for this MOC was drastically reduced. That's the main reason why it's built and in this video today. So before we get to the changes, let's cover what it shares with the M-12B MOC. Like the Warthog, this build features the unique side-angled technique. The cab where the driver and the passenger sit is almost identical, albeit with the seats sitting a single plate farther back and the dash having a smoother finish. The rear bed also features a practically identical construction, as does the underside. That said, being able to simplify the underside with almost all black does make this MOC look cleaner. So, what's changed? Well, the front's different. I didn't want to use the preformed windscreen piece featured in the official set, as Mega, for whatever reason, decided to go with a different grey. I'll get to that later, but for now you can see that I ended up just contouring the windscreen with thinner segments to give the illusion of glass, a lot like in the Pelican. It's not perfect, and I think that the windscreen is one of the lacking elements of this MOC. I was never able to get the angles of the central two struts just right, but I feel this was just the best that I could do. The rest of the hood section has also been significantly beefed up, as it should be. I'm especially happy with the mudguards at the edges, as they just add that extra detail that you can see on the in-game model. They're also one of the weaker areas, so you do have to take a little care not to disturb them. As we move to the very front, I'm glad that I managed to represent the lights with transparent bricks. The front underside has some detailing that's representative, but I wasn't able to make it fully accurate. The front bumper/underside skid is alright. The in-game model does have a small winch that is incorporated into it, but that detail was a little too small to fully represent. The final change to this over the Warthog is this rear cargo section. It acts perfectly well for storing various items on it, just like in-game, although the top section is a little tighter than is ideal. This bottom rack part turned out better than I was expecting, and despite a somewhat tenuous construction, it is surprisingly robust. When looking at size, this MOC ends up being well within the set scale of 1:38, which is unsurprising really, as the overall construction is very similar to the M12B, which is also scale accurate. So whilst it isn't 100% fair to directly compare MOCs against official sets, as they're more designed with play and cost in mind, I still find it interesting. For the Razorback, Mega has only made a single set, the 2021 Razorback Blitz. This isn't very surprising though, as the vehicle is pretty uninspiring, and Halo has had a lackluster release of sets due to the franchise's continued mismanagement and therefore decline. Whilst it's not a bad set overall, I do have notable bugbears about this one, which I think held it back, in my eyes at the very least. The first one is the colour. I could probably go on about Mega's decision to use 12,000 different types of grey over their sets, but why did they think that the warm, mottled, mid to light grey was good for this? On pretty much every image I've seen of this vehicle, it's clearly a cooler, bluer grey, if not neutral. Mega also clearly have other shades available in active production, so why they went with this one just baffles me. I'd go as far to say that even their set renders make it look like they're using the banished darker mottled grey, to the point that it's almost deceptively different to the shade of vehicle that you're actually getting in the set, although this also isn't the first time that Mega have done this. The second problem with this set is that I don't think that the front is actually built up enough. The one defining factor between this and the normal Warthog is meant to be how much bulkier and more armoured it looks up front, but the set just doesn't look anywhere near as tanky as the in-game model. This is probably because the design is largely based upon the Warthog Rally set, which I think ended up looking a bit thin, especially from the side. Despite these problems, I can't say that this set is all bad. It once again uses Mega's fantastic suspension system, which is a huge upgrade over their pre-2020 Warthogs. Whilst I haven't got my hands on one yet, the newer Fleetcon Warthog is much more built up around the sides, so it would be interesting to see what Mega could do with this updated style for the Razorback. That's the USS M-15 Razorback. A cool but entirely forgettable part of Halo's vehicle sandbox. As I said earlier, I did this MOC partly because it made sense to, due to already having figured out the construction of the M-12B Warthog. I don't hate the M15, it's just a very mediocre vehicle to me. I'm still glad that I've done one though, as it's a more notable vehicle due to its recency, and still fits in well with my other UNSC MOCs. But it's not a build I'd likely attempt to come back to in a hurry though. Anyway, that's just my opinion. What about you? What do you make of the M15 Razorback? Great vehicle or missed opportunity? And would you like to see another, better version soon from Mega? Or are there other vehicles you'd rather see sooner? I mean, at this point you'd probably rather see any new set in the first place. Anyway, that's all from me today. I'm Reforger, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.